What's up, everybody? Coach Mills here, coming at you with a brand new Valorant video. And in this video, we gotta break down how Sentinels freaking lost. A team that just looked undefeated, got absolutely rolled, 12-3 on Icebox, still lost on Split as well. Sentinels made a lot of mistakes, and I'm sure you're making very similar mistakes in your game. So let's break it all down. But go to the GameLeap website if you want more in-depth breakdown, VODs, map guides, agent courses. We got it on the GameLeap website, so you just gotta go check it out right now. But without further ado, let's jump into the video. So for a while, Sentinels has looked absolutely dominant, especially internationally. They won the last event, and they just seem like they're freaking undefeated. And a lot of you are big fans of the roster or the individual players. We're big fans of the roster here on this channel, but G2 actually surprised everyone before when they took a single map off Sentinels in beating them on Icebox. Now, Sentinels still ended up winning the series, and this is the rematch up against G2, and a lot of people speculated that it was just a fluke for Sentinels, that Sentinels would revisit the drawing board, come back, and just be able to destroy G2. But that is not the case. Spoiler alert, because G2 wins 12-3 on Split, even worse than before. Now let's break down a lot of what Sentinels did wrong here, and I think the first topic that we really got to cover is ego, because Sentinels has a huge amount of ego. They always have, and typically it works out for them, but this team really kept them in check. Check out this clip right here where Dapper gets 3-man peek Snowman here, and Sova's insane for retakes and trying to re-execute with your team, especially through a Viper, and the fact that he dies here early when he didn't have to take this duel in a heavily disadvantaged fight means that it's going to be very difficult for Sentinels to actually recontest this plant. Now, you're gonna see how this really matters in a second, where Sick actually pushes up and takes space really aggressively here because the enemy's Viper wall actually creates a lot of space on point. He's trying to get into range with his classic right click and really kind of close the gap because he doesn't have a ghost pistol. But the enemy Sova actually darts up high, meaning that Sick has to back off, and all the space that he claimed he has to give up. And this flushes Sentinels exactly where G2 wants them, and they're basically able to easily win this point off. And you really see where that ego came back to bite them later on. So the big takeaway for you, while ego is not necessarily a bad thing because it stems from confidence, it's important to understand how much your death actually matters and how it could matter later on, especially if you're a character with really powerful utility. You might want to think twice before you ego challenge an angle and just give up the space instead. Keep yourself alive and give yourself the option to use that utility later on for a retake or another play when your team is finally there. Now, the next thing that we do got to talk about, of course, is Counterstriking, and there was just a crazy amount of counter-strats by G2 over the course of the entire match, but one of the ones that really showcased this extremely well is this head peek. One thing that Sentinels often tries to do is they dart back wall aggressively on defense, and then Shaz pushes all the way up, floats all the way to belt, and opts that angle. But check out this specific head peek that the enemy Raze is doing. Check out how difficult this would be to hit and how they're really fully expecting Shaz to do this, and this is something that you could do on a micro level in your games. If you notice the enemy keeps doing the exact same type of strategy over and over again, try to think of a way where you could set up at an angle that is very difficult for them to actually kill you, and that you basically get to play for them doing that exact same thing over and over. Because a lot of times people will learn one thing from one VOD, or they develop a style that they just keep incorporating as long as it keeps working, and you can use that against opponents. So it's important to know some weird things that they're doing in the games and try to make up a counter strat on the fly. Now, Sentinels is going to lose this 12-3, and their confidence is absolutely shot. And something that they obviously try to do in the next match, Split, which they should be favored in, is they try to get that confidence back by overcompensating. And this is something that I've seen a lot of players do individually in ranked, where you lose a game because you're aggressive, maybe you make a lot of mistakes, and you're like, hey, I don't have a lot of confidence, so let's just go balls to the wall crazy and try to get that confidence right back. But if it doesn't work out, it completely backfires what you see happen. This is often the double-edged sword of being a team that often runs hot and has high levels of individual mechanical skill. Is if you don't have that mental, you don't want to resort back to the drawing board and play really safe, because you really don't win that way. You win with momentum. You often win by consistently overperforming in individual matchups. So you're trying to grasp at your confidence back, and when it doesn't work out for you, then you just fall even further down the rabbit hole. Now, Now, one thing that is extremely important that we got to point out is Avova's performance on split. He went absolutely wild here, and I really want to showcase this play right here where he sucks main playing back a site and he doesn't peek it on purpose. The reason that he does this is it actually baits the idea that he is not back a site and instead playing under rafters or rafters itself, and the enemy don't respect that he's here because he sucked and basically didn't play off of it, which heavily tells something that is just not true that he did on purpose. Now, he's gonna actually peek this, get a free kill the top of ice wall, and then he's gonna smoke off and check where he put the smoke. It intentionally has a crack here. He did this so he easily gets to actually get some more information and potentially gets a kill, which he does, and it's really crazy how he set this up from start to finish. He really basically designed this point for him to constantly mind games the enemy and give himself multiple options, whether it's getting out or trying to re-engage. Another thing he does on the other point on B site is often he'll split the site post plant with the wall and he'll put his body in the corner in a specific spot to where you can't push through that because he's body blocking, and if enemies want to push in front of him, he gets free kills as they push through the wall. Really crazy Astra play, I'm gonna be honest. Now, this last super pivotal play is crazy important because Sentinels actually loses a 5v3. It's absolutely crazy, and I know that this has happened in your games as well. So let's really look at some of the big mistakes that they made in order to make this happen. Well, they get a ton of picks here, and they really clear out site incredibly well. They take point control very well, and Dapper is going to Viper ult, taking control there, but the big mistake happens with their control of Heaven. Shazam and Zombs both have not great weapons, right? Shazam has a shotgun, he has a Judge, and Zombs has that Spectre. And even though Shazam knows that ramp is not clear, he really kind of ignores that angle, doesn't respect the enemy from that angle, and he gets killed basically for free here. And then Zombs taking a 50-50 up against someone who has a better weapon when he only has a Spectre loses that as well. And at the exact same time, tenz gets caught out running or beelining to point when he really probably should have helped his team Heaven instead, especially considering they had much inferior weapons and they didn't have Heaven control. All of these combined lead to 3 rapid deaths out of nowhere that were simple mistakes that honestly should not have happened at all, and the enemy gets to easily rotate. Dapper, who already invested the Viper's Pit, doesn't get value out of it anymore, and it really would make sense that tenz go Heaven here. Shazam doesn't make these mistakes. Very silly errors, and I know that honestly throughout the course of these matches we really got to see some of that tension between Shazam being an IGL and a duelist, because oftentimes in this match it's very obvious that G2 is counter-stratting, coming up with really complex strategies to shut down Sentinels, and that really gets the gears turning in Shazam. He's trying to think of a way to find impact even though they're counter-stratting, find impact even though things are not working out. So he's thinking a lot, but at the same time he still has to perform mechanically and think about his own play, and it just gets really difficult and taxing on him. So it is one of the downfalls when you are not running hot and things aren't going well. It's going to put a lot of extra pressure on Shazam, which is going to create more mistakes. Now, I think Sentinels is going to easily bounce back from this, but I'm interested in whether or not they're going to ban freaking Icebox up against G2. I mean, it looked absolutely terrible for them, and they have historically banned Ascent. I wonder if they're going to open that back up. I definitely want to know your opinion about all that and why. And definitely let me know if there's any other VODs you want me to break down to give you some actionable tips. But go to the GameLeap website for in-depth tips and tricks, VOD reviews. We got so much on the GameLeap website. You got to go check it out right now. Thank you so much for coming by. Hope you enjoyed the video. I love your faces, and I'll see you next time.